Hey everybody, welcome to My Green Pets. I'm William Green. You're looking at Wayra, Cattleya rex, Wayra. Wayra bloomed for the first time this year in May, and then has thrown out this second spike. And these just bloomed out this past week. Aren't they lovely? I'm telling you, these Cattleya rex colors only really are seen in the sunlight like this. If you have this plant just in a room indoors with regular lighting, they don't look like this at all. They just have this drab kind of reddish color on the lip, but when the light shines through it, watch out. They are spectacular. Stained glass windows. Alright, I'm going to show you what's going on in the orchid collection today. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at some seedlings. These are my Dawiana rosita seedlings. These have grown really vigorously over the past year. And just new growth after new growth. One day, those will be wonderful. These are selfing from Brett Baker's Rosita from Rogue Orchids. Super awesome. These are all Dawiana aurea, these guys. These are from HBI. It's a selfing of a clone called Excelente, apparently from Colombia. Then behind it we have some Bosfeldiana, also from HBI. And then we start with the Rexes. Now, all of these Rexes came from Peru Flora last year. It's been a year. And I deflasked them, and for a couple months, maybe a month or two, I had the deflasked plants. I just removed them in clumps and just set them in clay saucers and watered them every day. And then after a few months, I can't remember exactly how long it was. It wasn't too long, maybe a month or two. I got all these little pots and separated them out and just stuck them in there with no medium. I water them every day, sometimes twice a day. I'm a chronic overwaterer, so I like watering. I want to water them every time I see them. But you can see some of them still quite small, but a few are really starting to grow out of their little pots. That's really exciting. I hope that these are in fact what I ordered. All of these were from 4 different 5 packs of 5 varieties of Cattleya rex all mixed in there together. And then this was Cattleya rex, I think it's 2 splash petal varieties crossed with each other. This was the whole flask, so I just plopped it all right in there. So my plan is not to take them out of these pots, but to let them crawl out of these pots. And then once they crawl out, then I will remove them and put them in bigger pots. These 3 are also Rexes, but these came from HBI as well. And you can see this is done pretty well for coming out of flask only last year. This one's done really well. These little guys are an experiment. I just glued them to these antlers just to see what they would do. Originally they were 4, only these 2 have survived, but they seem to be established and doing all right. For me, mounting Cattleya rex is the best way to grow it. It really reduces chance that you're going to get root rot or stem rot. It could still happen, but the largest, healthiest looking plants in my collection were mounted like this as seedlings, and now they look like this. These 2 guys, especially this one. They were just little seedlings stuck to pieces of wood. You can see the piece of wood there. They've pretty much eaten it by this point, but they're just sitting on pieces of wood, and then a piece of wood sticks in it. It's just laying in a pot. But these plants have by far outgrown everything else because they've never had their roots disturbed. Every time you repot, you're disturbing roots, setting the plant back. These guys have never had to deal with that. So, if we look next door, look at this. This is Vanda falcata, the Japanese fukiran. And it's got 2 spikes with 7. 1 spike was 6, and then another one on the front here that I haven't been able to count yet. And then there's one more coming up. I don't know if they'll all be in bloom at the same time, but judging is coming up 2nd weekend in June, so next Saturday. And I might take it down. They gave me hope last year that they said that the flowers had really good form, and I just needed to up the flower count. So 7 per spike is maybe more awardable than last year's numbers. Right next to that, we've got Bulbo echinolabium. Hal is really doing great. Yes, the newest leaf is small, but the newest leaf grew out of a plant that had no roots, practically no roots at all. But now check this out. Look at all these roots that have grown out. Isn't that wonderful? They're really reaching out, and you can tell the old bulbs have plumped back up. They are not shrivelly. They're still got wrinkles, but they are not shriveled like they were. So as the growth continues, the newest bulb should go ahead and fill up and become a nice little round bulb, very round and plump. And then the other bulbs will also continue to plump up. I don't know if they'll get back to their previous state. They used to be like little eggs. I mean, they just had no wrinkles at all. But they are doing so much better. I'm so glad Hal is rooted, is established, got a new growth. Welcome back, Hal. Good to see you. This Rex is Urqu, and Urqu's finally starting to root. You can see the roots coming through back there. But Urqu also has a snail problem, so my strategy for keeping snails from eating all the new roots off this time is to give the plant a dunk in water, leave it in the water, leave it submerged for 2 hours or so. Any snails, especially the larger ones, will find their way up to the top of the plant to get out of the water, and then I can pick them off. And so normally I try to do this maybe once every couple months or so, but since this rooting period is so crucial, and it's happened in the past where snails have just eaten the roots off and then no more roots grow, and then that's it for roots for the year. So what I've decided is that I'm going to do, maybe every like 4 or 5 days while they're rooting, I'm going to do a water treatment like that. Hopefully any residual snails, any of the large ones will keep. None of them will make it up to eat the roots. We'll see. So far, I see 1 eaten root, but there's looks like lots of roots that are still growing strong, so that's what we want. Right next to it, we've got Cali Maxima. This is a Cattleya variety, the light blue, steel blue color, really. No sign of buds in the sheaths yet. They kind of fool you because they have a double sheath. There's a second sheath inside the big tall one. But what's really funny about these is that they are actually inflated like little balloons. I mean, they're full of air. And it's just kind of funny. Little balloons there. I'm experimenting with rooting divisions in Sphagnum. I've seen some really successful Cattleya growers like Chadwick's, for example, Christofferson. A lot of the plants that they show are potted in clay pots in Sphagnum. So I'm wondering if this division will actually root in this Sphagnum, and kind of playing with how moist to keep it. I'm trying to keep it just a little bit a little bit of dampness, but also let it almost dry out before I wet it again. It's kind of tricky, but it seems to be okay, and hopefully that will end up with a healthy root system and lots of access to water so those bulbs can plump back up. You can see they've spent everything they have to try to put out those new roots, and it's actually trying to put out 2 new growths too, so I don't know what it's doing there. Alright, well, let's have a look at the Catasetums, and then that'll be all for today. Got 3 clones of Rebecca Northern. These 2 are an older clone. It's called Grapefruit Pink, and you can see these little bitty backbulbs were sent to me last year, and so they're growing up. I don't know if they'll even bloom this year. This clone of Rebecca Northern came from Sunset Valley Orchids last summer, and you can see last year's bulb was already quite nice and plump, so this year bulb I expect to be much bigger than that. And last year we got 2 spikes, so we might be able to beat our flower count from last year as well. You can tell that's just going to be a lot bigger this year. This is my Cycnodes Wine Delight. Had this guy, got this from Hauserman's, believe it or not, back in like 2015, and it had gotten to enormous proportions, and I divided it all up. I think it was early last year. So it took everything it had to produce this bulb last year. This one is going to be a little bit bigger, but hopefully we're going to get some flowers on that this fall. Usually in October is when it starts blooming. Right next to it we got a species. This is probably the Catasetum I'm most excited about. It's a Cycnodes cooperi. A lot of people got one of these from Sunset Valley Orchids last year, and a lot of people bloomed last year. Mine did not, so I'm hoping that it will bloom this year. And then finally back here we've got Monmodia Jumbo World. I've let this thing go for the past couple years. I did take 1 small division off the back of it at the beginning of last year, but it's got 2 enormous growths, and it actually, I can't get the camera on the other side, but there's actually a small little new growth coming off one of the old back bulbs. So we're looking at 3 growths on this thing this year. Each growth I would expect 2 spikes. Each spike can carry up to 24, 25 flowers, so we might end up with something really, really spectacular in December, which is when this guy typically blooms. Drops all his leaves and blooms in December. Really excited. The roots on this growth, this growth was way above on the top of the bulb there, so they had to reach down before they got to the medium, but that didn't stop them. They've already reached all the way to the bottom of the pot. So, very exciting. And that's it. Thanks for stopping by. Hope things are growing nicely for you. I'll see you next time, right here on My Green Pets. I'm William Green. Take care.